Welcome into the Sports Shuffle. Welcome to Fantasy Week as we officially are starting off our week long or week and a half long, really, at this point. Fantasy coverage. It's going to be fun.
Trying to find the main question, the main number one question of the entire week, which is, will it be Drew Lock or Geno Smith?
There's a lot of questions going on. We'll talk about a few of them here shortly. I am, of course, Ryan Gokers, along with
Tampa Motormouth Joel Verone also wondering, yes, will it be Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor? Yes, says the
it's that time where we all over speculate about things. So I'm officially 2 fantasy drafts into the season. I'm liking both teams so far. It's still very early, obviously. No major injuries to report from the preseason so far. Zach Wilson, a torn
did have
rotator.
successful surgery, so that's good.
Yeah, no surprises. Expected to be back right around the start of the season. So we'll see if he makes week 1, but not going to be out too long. He's not going to be on a team that's really super relevant. He's not fantasy relevant to me at all. He might have a couple guys around him.
Jets. Yes.
Yeah, there's another way to chant that if you're a Dolphins fan, but we're not going to go into that right now. Some news from today. Seattle rookie.
We're still waiting on the Deshaun Watson ruling as it goes on and on. As seems like the song "I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more."
Yeah, we just want that to be over, but not there yet. So, Seattle rookie running back Kenneth Walker is undergoing a procedure, but it's not a sports hernia and it's not a core muscle injury. So now we're describing injuries as what they're not. So it could be a concussion that he's going a procedure for, or a torn bicep. So we just know it's not a hernia and not a torn core muscle. So Rashad Penny with a hamstring injury. Now Kenneth Walker with an injury.
Something really freaking hurts, yo.
Yeah, so maybe DJ Dallas all of a sudden comes up and has some fantasy relevance if the injury bug bites them a little bit. Not a big surprise, maybe outside of where it's coming from. Per Melvin Gordon, the Broncos running back, coaches want Javonte Williams to be the guy. Of course, he is in timeshare with Melvin Gordon. So that if you are one of those people who wants to get Javonte Williams in your fantasy draft or in a dynasty league, you have him. That is good news for you.
The best news of the day, perhaps, is the MVP for Alvin and Kamara's Warriors, as it sounds like he is free and in the clear and may not have to deal with absolutely anything of a nature of being suspended or any kind of penalties until maybe even next year.
Yeah, if at all. That's a good thing for him. Darren Waller back at practice after a hamstring injury. Some just really precautionary stuff there. Chiefs wide receiver Mecole Hardman limping after falling during a drill, but it looks like he'll be okay. Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson, both soft tissue injuries. At least Cam Akers not considered serious.
You don't like hearing about fights involving the Panthers and Patriots and Christian McCaffrey, when especially with his injury history, never a good look nor never a good thing. As I sort of have to wonder if you look ahead to the schedule, if those teams meet in the regular season, will that
not this year?
Darn, because that would just be like a perfect made, drama ready to happen. But
some more news here. Michael Thomas going to be ready for the season. A lot of good buzz about Michael Thomas looking like the person we remember seeing play in 2019 and before he got hurt in 2020. Miles Sanders sidelined with a hamstring injury. I don't think anything to be too worried about yet. Chiefs practice today. No Juju Smith-Schuster due to a sore knee. And three more pieces of news. Saquon Barkley workload, quote unquote, will be huge. That's good if you want to take the chance on the health of Saquon Barkley. The big rookie news I'm going to say is this. The Houston beat reporters are reporting Dameon Pierce primed to take over the starting job. If you're drafting right now in fantasy, he's going somewhere late, like round 13. So he is a possible very, very good value late in drafts. And one I think we're going to talk a little bit more about here, Antonio Gibson practicing with the third string and Washington punt coverage teams due to his fumbling problems in the preseason and going back to last year. So, that's top 12 guy the last 2 years. looking like he's going to be in or on the outs for the Washington Commanders or the Turds. I might still call them the Turds. We don't know.
I think we probably need to still call them the turds.
The Turds. It was either the Turds or we're going to just call them the Durs because Commanders. So maybe we'll just call them the Durs. I don't know. Because either that, the Commanders is full, which I don't like, or the Commies, which is just
Mm-mm.
maybe fitting for that dumpster fire franchise.
Mm.
But I think I'd rather go with the Durs if we're going to go anywhere. So yeah,
How about,
Antonio Gibson.
how about the derps?
Well, the Derps makes more sense with how they're run, but there's no P in the name, so that's what's tough there.
Yeah,
So,
derp.
anyways, Antonio Gibson currently going in the third or fourth round of fantasy drafts and practicing with the third string. That seems to be a very, very poor pick at this time. Joel, any interest in Antonio Gibson where he's being drafted right now?
Geez, they're yeah, they're, yeah. You tend to look at him last year, this year. You're thinking it just depends upon who's ahead of him, I think, and how much of a reach do you want to pull him for, and how much you're willing to give up.
Yeah, a couple notes on the Washington backfield situation. J.D. McKissick did return to the team in the offseason after having a verbal agreement with Buffalo. He backed out after go back to Washington to retain that passing down role. And then third round rookie Brian Robinson drafted by the Durs. He looked very good in the preseason after Antonio Gibson fumbled. He went in with the ones and was very good. The crowd reacted very positively to him.
The Commanders
So
don't need any more SpongeBob restaurant memes for the running backs again this
yeah,
year.
and while we're on the topic of Brian Robinson, was able to get him at round 14, pick 12 last night in a fantasy draft. He may be the number one running back by the time we get to the start of the season. Don't overreact on Gibson. If you have him in a dynasty, it might not be the worst time to try and move on from him. I know I moved on from him in about one league about 3 weeks ago, and the stock has been falling since then. So I'm glad to have gotten out from
Can't be
Antonio
falling
Gibson.
about as bad as Deshaun Watson with his rather
Yeah, Deshaun Watson not
preseason.
being
Yeah.
drafted within good reason because there's a very good chance he is suspended for more than the 6 games he is currently set to be suspended. We'll find out this week because
Oh my good
one,
God. Yeah.
let's be very clear. The NFL wants more games. They're appealing. It's more than likely not going to go down from 6 games. That on its own kind of puts him off of fantasy draft boards for most
There's
people.
a headline on PFT I saw that was absolutely perfect that said that hopefully it was something along the lines of hopefully we're going to get a ruling this week, but a deadline would be nice. I'm like, yeah, all of us are of the same
Yeah, I
general.
think the Cleveland
When
Browns.
NFL? When?
I think the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson would be happy to say we're going to have this resolved by the end of August. So August 31st, you will have a decision, no matter what. End of discussion. Now, something to note is that if it is extended to a full year, it sounds like Deshaun Watson will be suing the NFL. That still means that 6 game original
There's
would be in play.
There's even the tertiary story of potentially Jimmy Garoppolo and the
Yeah, there's
Browns.
rumors around the Browns that if Deshaun Watson suspended his suspension is greatly increased. And of course, there is the 8 game, hey, suspend me for 8 games, find me a bunch of money, and let's call this, basically end this right now. That's coming from Deshaun Watson camp at this point. So that's, I guess, still technically possible. That might be delaying this resolution coming from the judge or whoever they appointed for the second appeal. But if the suspension is greatly increased, I think the Browns are going to be in the Jimmy Garoppolo sweepstakes. I think the only reason he hasn't been released by the 49ers is they're
How the
waiting to
hell
see
do
what
the Browns
happens.
have any money left after Deshaun Watson?
You
After
got to remember Deshaun Watson, $48 million signing bonus, not hitting the salary cap, only $1 million in salary. You can work it for a year with Jimmy G, give him a signing bonus, especially if he gets released. You got to trade him. You're under that contract. So we'll see what happens. Of course, contracts can be negotiated and money can be moved around. So
that's the team that they should have put on a hard knocks this year, not the Lions. They should have put the freaking Cleveland Browns on hard knocks.
yeah,
NFL
that
needs to
would have
vote
been
on
an
that.
interesting one. Um, I don't know if you heard the chant in Jacksonville for Deshaun Watson.
Mm-mm.
Well, it's a
I'm.
three
I can.
word phrase.
I can. I can almost imagine.
The last word rhymes with duck. It
Yeah.
starts with
Yeah.
you, sick,
Mm.
and so
Yeah.
yes. And this was
Yeah.
not like a small group of people doing it. It was a pretty sizable chunk of a preseason crowd doing
Mm.
it during the game. You sick bleep. You sick bleep.
Get
So
used to it, Cleveland.
yeah, welcome to the Houston Astros treatment. Deshaun Watson specifically. I don't think it's going to be Cleveland as much because uh, I really do think sports fans understand like Deshaun Watson is still a pretty good quarterback, or at least he was last time he played. Cleveland needed a good quarterback to get to the next level. I think sports fans can at least go, I understand why they make the move, but really probably not. You don't want to be the team making that move, especially with how they did Baker Mayfield in the whole situation. So that one's
Yeah.
still waiting for resolution.
Yeah, and the whole chippy thing between the Patriots and the Panthers. So you had some interesting uh, practice fireworks going on between those 2.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you see that about once a year. They have the joint practices between two teams that play a preseason game, and at least once a year they get chippy between each other. You see a couple infighting during camp. I think we saw who was it? The Vikings maybe had that. I know the Saints had an issue with one of their rookie linemen getting into it with some players 3 days in a row, and he got kicked out of practice. So, not
Yeah,
fortunately, again,
that's not good when you're getting your ass kicked out of
yeah.
practice.
And again, fortunately, again, we're gonna be talking about fantasy here coming up for the next week and a half you know, the majority of the time, and of course all season long. So fortunately, no major injuries as yet. I think the biggest one so far is still the Tim Patrick ACL tear, which as a number 3 or so wide receiver for a team, not the end of the world. I mean, they will bring somebody up, KJ Hamler or somebody else to follow up Judy and Sutton. But yeah, that's so far, knock on wood, that has been the worst injury we've seen so far. Of course, preseason week 2 is the quote unquote dress rehearsal week now. It used to be week
Unlike
3. Now we're down to 3 total weeks.
Dobbins and Edwards and the other complete rash of injuries that absolutely decimated the Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens are actually getting healthy. Dobbins off the pup list. Marcus Peters off the pup list. Gus Edwards still on it, but they're starting to get some of their players back. We'll see.
Let's
They could
have
be a better
the
team. They should be a better
Lamar
team.
Jackson drama contract.
As far as contracts go, that one hasn't been so bad. I mean, you remember the Kyler Murray everything, and then the
I'm
clause,
gonna
you have to
delete.
study. What?
I'm gonna delete everything off of my account.
Yeah, that child's crap is whatever. But yeah, we're going headlong into the dress rehearsal week of the preseason. You'll see starters for a quarter to a half, most likely this week. Probably a pretty vanilla game plan, but just to get them some live action time. You'll probably see your superstars for a drive or two. Your Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hills that have switched teams this offseason. Probably get a couple drive with the starters and then sit because you don't want them getting hurt in the preseason. That would be really, really stupid. But this
Cough,
is the
Jameis
risk week.
Winston, cough, cough.
Yeah, this is the week we run the risk of having a major injury because they're out there in the preseason. Hopefully nothing happens, but this is why typically, in the 2 drafts I've already done, I don't have control over that. This is why typically you don't draft until next week or the end of next week, like we're doing with our 10 and 16 team leagues. That would be live streamed Thursday and
You don't
Friday.
want to get to the point of, oh wow, look at my team, this is great, and then 7 days go by, holy crap, everyone's hurt.
Yeah, so kind of a slow off season, which is not a bad thing. It was a busy off season. Now we're in the preseason. It's starting to slow down. You're getting a lot of hype, a lot of press. That's man, I still can't believe Antonio Gibson's with the punt team. That's just sad. He was the guy last year. I was like, this is going to be my anchor of my team. He's going to be the guy that explodes. I took him over some players that I would rather not admit. Jonathan Taylor being one of them. And yeah, it didn't work out. Even though I did have him in our 16 team where I won, but that's a little different because he was still an RB12. It's just very disappointing. All right. So Joel, have you done any mock drafting on your own yet, or just the one we did?
Not as of yet, just the one we ended up doing.
All right. Well, I have done a ton. I will say this: the spot I hated most in a 10 or a 12 team league to mock draft is actually number one overall. I don't think the options coming around on the turns after around 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 on those turns, I don't like those options. I actually,
Are you just automatically going CMC, or are you?
well, actually, we'll go over this real quick. I faced that decision last night as I was given the number one overall pick, and my first thought was, crap, I got to make that decision. Um, I did not. I went with Jonathan Taylor. The injury scared me off of CMC. CMC actually dropped to number 4 in that league, oddly enough. But yeah, it's an interesting team. The roster I got from that one: Trey Lance is the starting quarterback. Last person to take him, round 9, pick number 1. Last person to take quarterback in that league. Jonathan Taylor, Zeke Elliott is the starting running backs. Cortland Sutton and Terry McLaurin as wide receivers. Mark Andrews at tight end. Flex is currently Miles Sanders. Denver Broncos defense and Tyler Bass as the kicker. On the bench, Gabe Davis, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Robert Woods, Kenneth Walker III with the non-hernia, non-core muscle injury we don't know anything more about. Julio Jones, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Brian Robinson, as previously mentioned, with the whole Antonio Gibson drama. So, any thoughts on that team?
Ooh, just I would definitely agree with the whole thing to go in with Taylor as opposed to CMC, because I think most people would automatically just sort of think autopilot CMC, but then you have to take the injuries and the history into account. And then you think about Taylor and you think, okay, I think there's more upside with Taylor than there is with CMC this year.
Yeah, my theory, and it was a full PPR, which does make a difference here. If it's non-PPR, CMC's down the board quite a bit because he gets a lot of points in the reception game. But my thought here was Jonathan Taylor has been more durable going back to his time in college. He was the running back 1 last year, given Derrick Henry's monster start would have probably kept Taylor at number 2, but he would have been number 2. And at the end of the day, I think Taylor's outcome is probably going to be 1 to 10 if he stays relatively healthy. At worst, you're going to get a top 10 running back. Whereas with CMC, he could play 2 games. Very, very likely. We've seen it the last couple of years, 10 games out of the last 2 seasons. So 10 out of 33. That's a little under a third. So, yeah, it's just too big of a risk for number 1 overall to take a guy who has not been able to stay healthy. And, of course, now he's fighting in practice with another team. So he's clearly not going to stay, out of the drama and out of the fray. He's going to put his body on the line, which is what you want from an NFL player. But at number 1 overall, that scared me. You get me in the back end, or if he was there at 4 all day, but unfortunately I had the number 1 overall pick, and I figured, you know what, I want the safe accent there.
And I've got to toss out he's not in the league anymore, but AV in the news yet again is, of course, he's got a post. He always seems to have a post, right?
Yeah.
Tom, because of course I think Tom Brady apparently took some time off or whatever because
Yeah,
he's Brady.
He walked away from the Bucks for some personal reasons. The reasons weren't disclosed.
And so AB said, quote, in his post, Tom Brady manipulate the game, gets 14 days, go home, get his mind right, get his mind RT, LOL. Now you see the difference. Put that expletive
Poop.
on. So yeah, that's AB being AB, and the best quote was actually a reply under that. Somebody was teasing him, just come back to the league, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you can compare Antonio Brown to Tom Brady when it comes to success and people you want to emulate and follow, because
Yeah,
Tom Brady's won multiple Super Bowls.
how many rings does
7.
Brady have? Brady got AB a freaking ring. So
Yeah.
you just
Yeah. He's got 7 for what it's worth. Um and the fact of the matter is the guy's 45 years old. He retired. So if he wants to take 2 weeks as a guy who has always been prepared, let him. And you don't know what it could be a family issue. It could be, I know he's close with his father. Hopefully it's not this, but maybe his father's not doing so well. He wants to make sure he spends time with him before he goes. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but we don't know what it is. It could be just, hey, you know what? Everybody's hurt. It's a long
TB
season. I'm going to
TB
take some time off and stay home.
TB12 is in his own realm, his own quantum reality almost in comparison to everybody else. So he sort of operates on his own rules, I tend to think.
Yeah. Daniel Jones cannot pull this crap. That's it. That's it. That's all you can say about it. So, Antonio Brown, go sit down. You're no longer relevant. You decided to abandon your career because you think
By
you're some
ripping off
special
your
elite.
clothes and leaving in the middle of a freaking game during a regular season.
Yeah, so not a great look for Antonio Brown. He needs to just go sit down in the corner and be very very quiet.
Sort of like the Rock, sort of like AKA like the Rock would say from yeah, know
Yeah.
your role.
Ah, man. But we are really I'm really looking forward to these fantasy drafts coming up. Got about, if I'm looking at this correctly, about one, two, about six more, I think, to go. Six more, seven more. Waiting on the Mega Bowl again because that went really well last year, so it won't go well this year. Of course, our 10 and 16 team leagues that we'll be live drafting again next Thursday and Friday. One at 8 p.m., one at
Separate
7 p.m.
days this
Separate
time.
days so we
Separate.
don't lose our damn mind. Thursday,
And
the 25th. Yeah, Thursday the 25th at 8 p.m. a 10-team
back
draft.
to back drafts sound really, really fun until you have to do them.
Yeah, especially if you don't have a very nice, comfortable place to do them from, like a chair that is not very well padded, like I'm in right now. But yeah, the 16-team league, 7:30 on next Friday, the 28th. Oh, it's almost there. It's so close. We wait all off season since February, waiting for
Almost
something.
ready to figure out, okay, so who do we start week one?
Yeah, you're already, and that's a good thing about Dynasty. You're still in it. You're still following it. You're still making trades, and I've made trades in the last few weeks. It's great. But for those people who wait the entire off season to get to this time of year, I can't imagine, because that just sounds like torture to me to wait that long and have nothing to go on. But yeah, it's rapidly coming. Fortunately, again, so far the NFL health as a whole has not been bad. Hopefully, this time next week we'll be in that same boat. But
And
um,
we'll have the resolution to the freaking Deshaun Watson matter. Yay.
yeah, anything from preseason games you have seen or heard that really stands out? I know it's preseason week one,
I
and who
just,
cares? But that's where we're at.
nothing is really, it's as you say, it's you're trying to figure out, like I was talking before, we have the manufactured dramas. Is it going to be Drew Lock, is it going to be Geno Smith, is it going to be Tyrod Taylor, is it going to be Daniel Jones? As you said, let's over speculate and hype because it's the preseason, and as you just said, nobody really, it's like the Family Guy. Oh my God, who the hell
Yeah,
cares?
I mean, it's important for the players. It's important for especially those 45 through 65 kind of guys in the roster of 53 or so. That's important. Of course, there's the quarterback battle, I guess you would say, in Seattle, Geno Smith and Drew Lock. That they were going to give Drew Lock the start, and then he got COVID. So I guess we'll see a lot more
Why,
Geno
why,
Smith. So I think that gives him the inside track. Um, Trevor
can
Lawrence
you
looks a lot better. The Jags in general look a lot better, I think.
can you imagine the Seattle Seahawks front office is going, okay, so we really traded away Russell Wilson. What did we get again?
Yeah, you got a lot of picks. But yeah, Russell Wilson week one in Seattle with the Denver Broncos. Seattle. I'm sorry, that's not going to be a good game for you.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, it's not. It's just not a good thing.
Mr. Wilson is going to be getting ready to cook.
Yeah, he is going to
Russ
be
Russ will cook.
unleashed. He's going to cook his flaming cereal or filet mignon, whichever one he decides he's going to do that day, because he's kind of inconsistent with that. But yeah, he is. He's that's going to be. I think that's going to be the most interesting team to watch is the Broncos, because with Russell Wilson, you've had Cortland Sutton, you've had Jerry Jeudy, you've had all these players that have been good and they haven't been elevated to that next level. And we'll see if Russell Wilson can do what he did with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and several other receivers before those two in Seattle. So we'll see. That's going to be one of the more interesting teams to watch this season. Anywho, so tomorrow, later time than normal, sometime after 7 p.m. due to other engagements, aka Golf League Championship Week 1
4,
match.
5, 6, 7.
Hey, we're trying to defend our championship from last season, and yeah, it's a 2-week match. If we don't get destroyed tomorrow, at least it will go into the second week. So once that is done and I'm home, we're going to do a 16-team mock draft on Sleeper. Again, this is really the start of our fantasy coverage for the season. Of course, again, we wish we had a little bit more news to cover, but not a whole lot going on, which is a overall a good thing. So the 16-team mock draft tomorrow, we'll be randomizing the slots. Something we may actually do tonight, if we can figure out how to do it, is to pick the draft orders for those two leagues, which we may shut this one down and do that here in a second, because I like giving people a little bit of a heads up on where they're going to be drafting. And on Friday, poker night, we're going to be picking a player of our choice for, doesn't matter what position, no kicker, no defense. And we'll go over that more here on Friday. And then next week is just showtime. So, Joel, let's go to final thoughts, and let's do the draft order here in a separate video. But what are your final thoughts for today?
My final thoughts are just I'm definitely thankful as a fantasy football player, whether or not I have a chance to draft Alvin Kamara, that he sounds like, unlike Mr. Watson, he will not be facing any suspension or missing any kind of time if you end up watching him play at all, any period of time, whether it was in fantasy or in reality last year, especially that insane game he had to probably give at least half of the people out there their fantasy championships. And I know you know which game I am referring to, that are going, how many TDs did
Oh,
he
that was
get?
2 years. That wasn't last year. That was 2 years ago.
That was okay.
Yeah,
I'm
the
mixing up.
6-touchdown Christmas Day game that gave people the so many titles. Yeah, that was surprisingly. It doesn't feel like it's been almost 2 years, but yeah, it was 2 years ago.
Insane. But
Last year was Joe Burrow going absolutely crazy.
okay, I'm mixing up my years, but
It
still,
all blends together.
nevertheless, yeah, just fantasy. But of course, yeah, I'm still happy that he will be able to hopefully have as good as 2 years ago for this year, and is not getting any kind of suspension.
Yeah.
So, thank you to the Alvin Kamara Warriors, and hopefully we'll have the Watson thingy resolved sometime soon this freaking week. We hope.
Yeah, there's still a little bit of risk to Kamara, but it's a lot less than it was a few weeks ago, and he's still going later in most fantasy drafts than you would expect.
MVP to his lawyers, definitely.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. It's not a sure thing he's going to miss, but it keeps getting pushed back, and now it looks much more likely that nothing happens this season, so that's a good thing. For me, I'm going to go talk about a little bit of golf, and that is the Live Tour versus the PGA. I know a lot of PGA players are rallying against the Live Tour, and the Saudi money and all that stuff. And guess what, Joel? I'm going to ask you a very simple question. If another podcast came to you tomorrow and said, "Hey, I know you've been part of short stuff for a long time. I'm going to give you $150 million to come to Podcast X," how long would you have to think before you said, "Yeah, I'm going to do that"?
Probably about 5 seconds.
Exactly. That's what's happening. They're offering big money to people to come and play on a tour. If someone offers you a legitimate Brinks truckload worth of cash as a signing bonus, let alone what you're going to earn playing, you would be foolish not to do it. Everybody on the PGA Tour wants to say, "Oh, well, we're the tour, so we're this, we're that," whatever.
You're imagining in the background like the WWE, like, here comes the money, 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 like the Shane McMahon theme song.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you're mad at them for going and getting money because of why? Like, you could go do that too. If the PGA was giving that kind of money out, people would leave, live, and come back. But I don't understand the controversy as much. I understand the whole tradition. And if the PJ says, hey, you want to go join another tour? You can't play on our tour. Our tour has all the prestige. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But as far as the like the culture shock against the Live Tour because these people are taking Saudi money, guess what? Saudi money is in a lot of things you use every day. So is Chinese money. So is Russian money. It's all interconnected. That's part of the global economy. So if you don't want to, you want to protest Saudi money, go look at everything they invest in. Don't use any of their products. And when you're on the street walking in no shoes, barely dressed and have no home because half this, then enjoy it because you are very morally sound, but you are poor, homeless, and sad because they have their money and everything. So let's stop with the high horse crap on that one. Yeah. I'm going to buy a Nintendo Switch. Well, the Saudis give them a ton of money. Well, I'm going to get something from Apple. The same thing. And then oil. Every time you get in your car, you turn that on, make that thing go vroom, vroom. Guess what? Saudi oil. There you go. So let's calm down with that. Understand they're doing what's best for them, which is what anybody should be doing. Sure, I'd be like, Joel, can I have some money as he goes off to Podcast X? But I would not be like, that son of a mother. No, I'd be like, good for Joel. I understand it. I would do the same thing because that's what normal people do. If someone came to my workplace and said, I will triple your pay to come to work for me, I'd go to my management and be like, well, they want to triple my pay. You want to match that? Nope. Toodles. Like, that's how the world operates. People want to do better for themselves. That's how competition and all that works. So
is that when you're like Nino from New Jack City and you go, see you, wouldn't want to be you.
yeah, pretty much. It's one of those like, well, hasta la bye bye, see you never bye. See you. Anyways, that's Live Tour. I'm probably not going to follow it very much because it's not going to be something I'm super following it as it is. But calm down. Just because they want to make some money doesn't mean they're bad people. All right, so I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Tomorrow, again, the mock draft. We're going to go through 16-team league. We're going to see how this goes. It's a long draft, but the sleeper makes it a lot quicker.
Maybe even special coverage of the Deshaun Watson thing finally being resolved.
Yeah, as of now at 6:43 p.m. on August 17th, no resolution. So if you are happening to watch this later and something happened, we're not idiots. We did check, but it hasn't happened yet. So
we're checking. Yes. Nope.
Yeah. So anyways, with that, we gone.